Okay, let's start with our session. So we take you on a tour inside Doxis Cloud today. My name is Rene Wenzel. I'm Director Solution Engineering, responsible for cloud workspaces and integrations. And together with me is today Gil Loureiro. He's Vice President Platforms and especially responsible for our cloud services and the cloud team, of course. What we cover today are topics. So we speak first about why Doxis Cloud and why now. Second, we have a deep look inside the architecture of Doxis Cloud. Of course, very important, we have to mention security and enterprise readiness of the Doxis Cloud platform. And finally, we speak about the Doxis Cloud Move. So who of you is on-prem customer of Doxis? Raise your hand. The world is changing, and every change has some shifts in the industry and in your businesses. And at the moment, we are on the AI shift there, right? And each shift has some impact on, and we were improving, for example, the productivity, we increased the speed, we expanded reach, and we digitized our work. And the AI shift is a little bit different because it is extremely high-paced. You can see each day, each month, each quarter a new model arriving, which is better, faster, and so on and so forth. And therefore, it requires continuous model evolution, of course. And each AI service depends on large-scale data and compute, of course. And that's the reason why elastic infrastructure is necessary in that case. And for the very first time, the pace is the limiting factor, and the infrastructure must adapt to this extremely high pace, of course. And that's the reason, in my point of perspective, why AI at scale is not an on-prem game, right? Because in your on-prem environment, in your on-prem AI service environment, you manage high GPU investments, complex operations, of course. You will face inefficient utilization rate in first waves. You slow your innovation cycles because of the high investments, and it is hard to scale globally because you need a data center in Europe, one in US, one in APAC, and you have to spend extremely much money to build up that stuff here. And that's exactly the reason why we offer Doxis Cloud, because you benefit from elastic compute, pay-as-you-scale, continuous updates, scalable AI services, and Doxis Cloud is ready for enterprise workloads. And this is why AI is not just a technology shift, it is an infrastructure shift because you need a very fast and reliable infrastructure which grows with the needs. We switch perspective to the economic view a little bit. You can see 3 lines there. First line is the business value, and that is always the adoption rate of AI. Second line is cost for cloud AI services, and the third red line is on-premise AI service costs. And what you can see on that screen already is you will face high upfront investments there. You need a lot of servers, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of high expensive GPUs, which sits in your data center. And as the adaptation rate grows here, your infrastructure will become a bottleneck, maybe because of the AI adoption rate, and maybe because of new AI models arrive on the market and you have to switch GPUs, for example. The main point on that screen is that the cloud AI services keeps cost aligned with your business value. You don't face high upfront costs, you don't have bottlenecks in your environment there, and that's the reason why AI is not just about the model itself and about the decision which model to choose. It is more a decision about infrastructure economics. We've listed the advantages of the Doxis Cloud there, but let's speak about your on-prem environment first. In most cases, you are busy running your environment, right? Infrastructure, updates, operations, scaling, performance, security control, and the new topic would be AI infrastructure. And if you move to Doxis Cloud, the platform is completely handled for you. You can focus on business outcomes, for example, faster decision or more efficient processes, maybe some new innovation topics, and of course, most important here is faster AI adaptation, because that is the main reason why you want to use AI. So it is a shift from managing infrastructure to enabling business value there. And the big question in the room is now, I think, why AI workloads require scalable infrastructure. And Gil will tell you more about that slide in detail, but I want to make you aware about 3 heavy models which are used there. You can see first the embedding model, then the re-ranker model, and the text generation LLM, which is ChatGPT. And each of these models requires significant GPU memory and computing power. And that is exactly what Doxis Cloud is built for. It is built for the AI shift, and it delivers an AI-ready content platform which delivers the context for AI. It is built for RAG, for superhuman search, and it provides structured information. Second, it has deep process integration, so you can integrate to your SAP, Workday, ServiceNow environment, you name it. You can use Doxis Cloud in your workflows embedded, and your AI engine can support or suggest real decisions for you. The third option here is extremely important, and that is enterprise-grade governance, which does mean we take care about compliance, about data sovereignty, about security, and about traceability of your whole Doxis Cloud environment. If you compare Doxis Cloud with a hyperscaler alone, the hyperscaler would provide you only infrastructure, and you have to build everything on top by yourself. Doxis Cloud offers it out of the box, and that's the main advantage of the Doxis Cloud environment. And then it's up to Gil. Could you give us a brief insight the architecture?
Thank you, Rene. You set it up perfectly. Yeah, I will now be, giving you some insights on how we architect Doxis in the cloud. Of course, one of the key elements is scalability. We want to make sure that we take advantage of all the scalability nature of the cloud of the hyperscalers. We support both Amazon and Azure. Both are scalable, of course. We will be operating Doxis for you, with all that means, talking about updates, upgrades, and so on. We make sure that is very well connected with your IT ecosystems. We have multiple integrations, and this is also true in the cloud, cloud to cloud or cloud to on-prem. And of course, we make sure that is very well integrated with your identity system. This at the end means that we will bring a lot of value. This is some examples. We have been talking about AI, and of course, AI adoption with the cloud is one of the key values, right? So we will make sure that you can gain access to all these great AI functionalities. In the hyperscalers, we try to use as much as we can the as a service. So you have seen that behind the scenes, we are using LLMs, as you could expect. We use LLMs as a service. That's why we can, adapt the costs to the usage you will be doing, but we use also database as a service and so on. The main idea is to, profit from the fine-tuning that those hyperscalers does on these services. So we run Doxis on Kubernetes, and we use Kubernetes as a service, of course. And the main idea is to leverage on the great functionality that Kubernetes can bring. So one of them is scalability, so we can run multiple instances of the same module. For the ones that are technical, we have the ability to run multiple instances of CSV, for example. We have customers running 5 CSVs in parallel, 10 storage systems in parallel, and so on. So we can really scale horizontally. The other important thing is the self-healingness nature of Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is monitoring, constantly all these modules. If something goes wrong, it automatically restarts the module. And most likely the end user doesn't even realize that something went wrong on the back. And we also can, streamline all the upgrading process, because at the end of the day, we containerized those modules, and upgrades means, replacing one image with the other one, okay? Another important aspect we blended in our architecture is the ability to distribute Doxis geographically, okay? So we can, at the end of the day, due to multiple reasons, but we can store data at rest and also in transit in different geolocations. So you can have, for example, data for the EU documents staying on a data center that is located in the EU, and same for documents belonging to the US in a data center, sitting in the US. For the customers that are operating globally, this means that you can still have one single platform. The end user don't realize where the data is because for him, it's just one platform. And on the back, fulfilling laws and regulations with this architecture. Coming back to the AI infrastructure. So Rene mentioned already, we have multiple LLMs. I can imagine that you suspected that there is LLMs, of course, on the back. Actually, we have 3 of them. And we have another very important component, which is this vector database. So it's one more database, it's very specific with this semantic search topic, but is, of course, also requiring specific infrastructure and also knowledge to run this. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about LLMs and vector databases, we are not just talking about the hardware to run it, which is demanding, but also the software. So you can imagine that needs to be monitored and so on. And now let's have a look on security and enterprise readiness. So regarding security, as you can imagine, we do a lot. It's also our top concern, to be honest. We do, as you could expect, vulnerability scans and testing, all these kind of things. We do also data encryption, and I will go there in a minute. And we are very well integrated with the identity management system, so your Enter ID or whatever IDP you are using. So the main goal is to make sure that only the users that should have access to certain data will have access, okay? So regarding data encryption and also considering feedback from multiple customers that tell us, look, you are doing great stuff to make sure that our data is secure, but what about the hyperscaler themselves, right? Because at the end of the day, if you store data in their infrastructure, if they are managing the keys, if they are being requested to exfiltrate this data, they have the means, right? And to mitigate this, what we do is we apply a double encryption mechanism. So as soon as the data reach our software, we encrypt with keys managed by Doxis. And then this is, of course, down propagated into the infrastructure and encrypted again, okay? This means at the end of the day that if someone tries from the hyperscaler angle to exfiltrate the data, they will get encrypted data. Another concern we get from some customers is, the networking connectivity, because they tell us, look, I have the installation on my premises, it's closed in my network, I'm more comfortable. We can also replicate this into the cloud. So we have customers that tell us, look, I don't want to have any access from the internet to my installation in the cloud, just by a LAN-to-LAN VPN we set up, with our network. This is possible on the cloud. Of course, we can go all the way to the opposite direction. We have customers saying, look, we operate globally. We have users everywhere. We cannot afford to have any constraints. All good. We can go there as well. And we can do stuff in between, doing things like limiting access for certain countries, for example. This is also possible. The other concern we see a lot in the market is, okay, how do you make sure that my data is always available? Data resiliency. So, as I said before, we leverage on hyperscalers. They have their data centers organized in regions. So, example, Frankfurt region, Paris region, and so on. Inside regions, they have multiple data centers, so-called AZs. They are apart from some kilometers. And our solution spans in 2 data centers in a specific regions, okay? This is true for all the stack. So, all the stack is active, running on these 2 data centers. From, of course, our software, load balancer, and so on. And that means, at the end of the day, that if one of the data centers goes down because a fire happened in the building, the other takes over automatically. This is an automatic process. The user most likely will see a slight degradation on response time because, of course, the other data center need to scale up. But there is not really a downtime. And that's why we can offer you these RTOs, very short RTOs. RTOs for the ones that are not familiar with. The T is the time we take to restore full capacity. And the P is basically the period in time where data can be lost due to the disaster, okay? So this is very aggressive times, I can reassure you.
Yeah.
In addition, as a kind of second level of resiliency, we also allow this regional disaster recovery. So imagine that both data centers at a specific region gets unavailable. I don't know, a flood hitting Frankfurt region, for example. And to be resilient to this, we also replicate all your documents into different regions, for example, Paris, the database with the metadata, and all the necessary configuration to set up the installation in this other region. You can choose whatever pairs you want. We have an extensive list, but this means that we can, in these very unlikely events, also restore your installation in the different region. Okay, so as you have been listening these, I hope, cool features, now you may ask, okay, but how can I move my installation into the cloud? So Rene, can you give us some insights?
Thank you very much, Gil. That was awesome. But we go now to the more practical side, of course. So how get I things done and how can I move to the Doxis Cloud? We follow 3 simple steps. So we do assess, migrate, and replicate. In the assess phase, we analyze your current environment and we define together a target environment in the cloud, right? Maybe you want to use several regions, maybe you have specific requirements there. Then we migrate the metadata first, which is your database in your on-prem environment, right? We convert it to a cloud-compatible database, and of course it will be checked. And as third step, we replicate documents in the background, which does mean we have Doxis replication services available. We connect to your storage service on-prem, and we synchronize all documents to the cloud environment. The end user can use Doxis Cloud as soon as the metadata base is migrated to the environment and we are connected to your storage service. Doesn't matter if the document is left or right, on-prem or in the cloud. Of course, it will need a little bit more time to load a document from your on-prem storage service, but it gets replicated in the background in a week, in a month, in a year. It depends on the volume, of course. So that is a very secure and reliable and future-ready way to move to the cloud. Let's speak a little bit further about the cloud assessment. So we want to start with clarity, and it should be predictable, secure, and tailored to your need. And what you can expect from a cloud assessment is a full landscape analysis. We do risk and cloud readiness assessment. We identify required adaptation. For example, you have some webcube scripts integrated which are not compatible with the cloud environment, or some agents are written without performance values. We offer concrete migration scenarios. And the next point is very important if you are in the budget planning phase. We estimate and we do timelines, and you get a clear recommendation and a roadmap from us. There's no surprise for you. You will have full clarity and you can make real fast decisions with clear data. And that's it, more or less. So there are some key takeaways. I think we mentioned that already. So AI readiness needs cloud scale. The cloud move can be staged, as I mentioned already. You have seen a lot of information about the architecture, and the security is layered throughout the whole platform.